We're Let's Zoom, and this is our top 15 national parks of the West. Let's get into it.
Disclaimer, we have not been to every national park in the West. It's all just opinions. We're ranking it based off of 4 different things. The crowds, it's just crowds. Attractions is places to see, trails, that type of stuff. The infrastructure is based on roads, how easy it is to navigate around the park, the buildings, bathrooms, all that type of stuff. And the wow factor, is it jaw-dropping? Does it make you say, wow? Let's get into it.
It was hard to make a top 15, so we had to do some honorable mentions. 3 of these national parks didn't make the list simply because we haven't done anything in them. Death Valley was one, and then Kings Canyon and Sequoia were also simply visited but not enjoyed. 2 more honorable mentions. These are both from Colorado, Mesa Verde National Park and Black Canyon of the Gunnison National Park. These didn't make the list simply because Gideon hasn't been to any of these, and so again, we didn't feel like it would be an honest ranking if we included them only on what I've done in my experience there. At number 15, we have Redwoods State and National Parks. They're really cool trees, tallest in the world, but they are just trees, and the views kind of get old after you're looking at what seems to be the same tree. There wasn't any real hiking, and as Let's Zoom, we're a hiking channel. We value that a lot, and we definitely included that in our rankings.
Number 14, Great Basin National Park in eastern Nevada, 100 or so miles west of Salt Lake City. It's a great basin. There's some really big mountains. Wheeler Peak is the high point of the park. There's some caves that we haven't visited and some really pretty lakes.
Did you say, John?
Coming in number 13, we have Lassen Volcanic National Park. This park's located about 5 hours north of Yosemite National Park. And if you're tired of the crowds that other national parks in California typically have, you'll love Lassen Volcanic. We stayed at the Manzanita Lake Campground, located on the western end of Lassen Volcanic. It was a great campsite, and just like with any of these national park campsites, if you're looking to stay here, make sure that you go to recreation.gov to book your site in advance because these spots fill up really quickly. 2 of the more popular things to do in Lassen Volcanic National Park, one of them is going to Bumpass Hell, which is kind of like a miniature version of Yellowstone, in that there's a lot of geyser activity out there, and it's just a really cool landscape that's unique. The other is Lassen Peak, which is the high point in the park. It's also a volcano. It last erupted in 1915. The trail is perfectly graded, with some cool mile markers along the way that tell you more about the mountain and the park in general, and also how far you are from the summit.
Number 12 on the list, Arches National Park in southeastern Utah. This is a special national park for me as it's the first national park that I visited. There's lots of arches, Delicate Arch being the most famous and probably the best of all of them. There's also the Devil's Garden Loop, which is about 6 miles long. There's lots of arches that if you don't know where you're going, you will miss. So make sure you look out for those. Double Arch is another place that is fun. It's a short hike. Lots of people will be on this trail, but you can go climb around and see what I think might be the coolest arch there. And the windows section, which is also fun to go climb around in.
Just outside our top 10, at number 11, is Yellowstone National Park in the northwest corner of Wyoming. Everyone knows Yellowstone for the geysers, and there is a lot of geysers. One in particular that stands out to us is Old Faithful. It's probably the most well-known geyser, and it's pretty cool to see. And there's lots of great infrastructure around, so don't worry if you don't come right on the time when it's erupting, because there's lots to do to kind of pass the time and places to eat and shop. There's lots of wildlife activity in Yellowstone National Park. I would advise going in June, maybe July. That's kind of at the tail end of the peak season. Definitely go in the morning too.
You might be wondering why Yellowstone is so low on our rankings. Crowds were just unreal, and I didn't think that the cool sites were as cool as everyone makes them out to be. While it's still a gorgeous park, I just didn't like it as much as most people do. Number 10, just cracking in, is Capitol Reef National Park in south central Utah. The Let's Zoom team would say this is the most underrated park in Utah. It's the most forgotten of the Mighty Five. Cassidy Arch is a unique and different arch. That's very cool. The Hickman Bridge is a fun site to go to that you can climb up on the side and scramble around a little bit and get some different views. Fern's Nipple is one of the high points there. Whilst I have not hiked it, Ray has and claims it's one of the coolest hikes he's done in any national park. Be aware, there is some fairly technical stuff, nothing too worrying, but some steep and slippery slopes.
In the town of Fruita, which is like in the central point of the top part of Capitol Reef, there's a cool house called the Gifford House, along with some farm areas, some cherries you can go pick. They're free. You can get as much cherries as you can pick, basically. And it also includes a pretty cool visitor center. At number 9, we have Olympic National Park, located at the top of the Washington Peninsula in the state of Washington. As a disclaimer, our ranking of this is a little skewed because we were the victim of a boat on car incident. There's a lot to do here though. One of the coolest things that we enjoyed was Lake Crescent, which is just a stunning blue lake. Right in the hub, I think, of all the activity in Olympic. You would love it. You can get in the lake, you can go out on the dock. It's a lot to do here. Speaking of lots to do, right by Lake Crescent, we also have Mount Storm King, which is a pretty cool mountain that you get to go climb. Not super long, but it is steep. It includes some rope sections because of the loose dirt. Along the way up to Mount Storm King, you get to see Marymere Falls. Pretty cool waterfall in a temperate rainforest, which is just awesome. We enjoyed that a lot as well.
The hole in the wall at Olympic National Park is a really cool sight to see. The ocean, seeing it for the first time, kind of boosted it in my rankings. It was an unreal experience for me. The smell, the breeze, it was awesome. Make sure that you look at the time with the tides. You don't want to go at high tide because there won't be much to see. We traveled a little bit further in to the Hoh Rainforest and stayed the night at the Hoh Campground. The Hoh Rainforest was a very unique area, very different from anything that we've seen. A little bit underwhelming from what we've seen about it, but still very cool. Number 8. Bryce Canyon National Park in South Central Utah. I don't like Bryce Canyon very much because it kind of just gets old for me. It is very cool nonetheless, some really fun trails, but it seems to get pretty repetitive. Some of the fun trails are the Navajo Loop, the Fairyland Loop.
None of these trails are very difficult in length or elevation gain, so they're very popular. So be aware of that when you go. When you go in the winter, some of the stuff's going to be closed. You can still enjoy hiking, bring spikes, we did snowshoeing. As another disclaimer, we hate snowshoeing, so would not recommend that. But maybe you love it. Maybe snowshoeing is your thing, and if so, go for it. At number 7, maybe a little lower than what some of you might have this, we have Mount Rainier National Park. First thing you have to understand about Mount Rainier is during the peak season, you need to have a timed entry reservation to enter the park. You can get those timed entry reservations by going to recreation.gov. We went to the Paradise side, so we're not going to be talking about Sunrise because we did not get the timed entry for that. We did the Skyline Loop, which was super cool. Great views of other volcanoes in the Cascade Range, and we really enjoyed the glissading part, which was a special surprise because we came in early July and there was still a lot of snow on the Skyline Loop.
Number 6 on our list, Yosemite National Park. Some of you might think this is a little low. Yosemite is gorgeous, has some of the coolest sights you can see in any national park. The cliffs are unreal. We were fortunate enough to get a permit to go up Half Dome, which was a very fun hike and very unique experience with doing the cables. Kind of long and really hot. You can ask Ray about that. Click on our video somewhere here. Watch us go up Half Dome. The road system in Yosemite National Park really killed the vibe. It's impossible to get around there. The crowds are unreal, so much construction going on. You can't navigate around the park. The roads feel backwards. It's terrible.
Roads are backwards. They're all stupid and retarded. Google Maps takes us here and it says do not enter, even though it looks like it's the right way.
But outside of that, this is probably the coolest national park.
Entering the top 5 now, we have Zion National Park at number 5. Zion's located in the southwestern corner of Utah. There's quite a lot to do here. if you know what you're looking for. Obviously, the number one to do in this park is Angel's Landing. Some call it the scariest hike in the United States. It's not. I mean, here's the thing. If you're scared of heights, you probably wouldn't do well on this, but if you're scared of heights, just let me tell you, you're almost never in a position where you're on the edge of a cliff. And I know that all the social media guys want to tell you that you're on the edge of a cliff the whole time and you're scaling class 6 or 7 rocks, like you're not. It's not that bad. There's a lot of people, but you do need a permit for this. And so that's where some people get turned off, because if they don't get the permit, they think, oh, well, there's nothing else to do in the park. There's no other Angel's Landing in the park, but there's cool things. You can go to the Emerald Pools and see some cool waterfalls, depending on the time of year you go. Observation Point is another one. You actually can't get there via shuttle. You have to go to the eastern end of the park. You can hire a private shuttle to take you in if you don't have 4-wheel drive on the road. We've never done this simply because we've never taken this trip in a car that has 4-wheel drive.
Don't sleep on the Kolob Canyon part of the park. We've never been, but we've heard good things about it, and that's where you go to the subway, which you've probably seen on Instagram Reels. Don't forget about the Narrows. It's a very unique hike. We haven't done it, but...
Sorry. Make sure you bring the right gear for the Narrows, or you're going to be soaked. Or rent it in Springdale.
Number 4, Grand Canyon National Park in northern Arizona. This place is grand, let me tell you. It's the biggest hole on earth. The views are stunning. We've been here attempting to do the rim to rim to rim. Don't do this unless you are highly trained and stupid enough to do it. All the trails, they're amazing. The trail system is awesome. Don't underestimate the weather here. It changes fast, the winds can be high, and just because it's in Arizona does not mean that it is hot all the time.
If you're not interested in going too far into the canyon and doing the 5,000 foot climb back out, there's smaller hikes you can do. One of the most popular ones is called Uah Point. It's about 1.8 miles round trip. You get into the canyon about 1,000 feet. If you don't have time or don't have the energy to go on any hike, don't worry. There's lots of viewpoints along the rim, at the south rim especially. And there's lots of infrastructure there. Shuttles take you to different stops. You don't have to worry about driving. And as crowded as it is at the rim, the shuttles make it pretty easy to navigate. Coming up in our top 3, we have Canyonlands National Park. I know, some people are gonna be like, why is Zion not higher than Canyonlands? Why is Canyonlands at number 3? Well, I'll tell you why. Canyonlands National Park is the most desolate national park in Utah. The first thing you have to understand about Canyonlands National Park is that there's 3 different districts in the park. And the districts they don't connect. You have to go through outside roads to get to each one. Starting off with Island of the Sky. Island of the Sky is the most popular destination simply because it's closer to Moab. More people can access that. There's lots of really pretty and short things to do there. There's lots of viewpoints like the Green River Overlook, Grand Viewpoint, as well as Mesa Arch, which is one of the most famous arches in Utah. I'm sure you've seen pictures of it. Do be aware though, you're gonna be fighting for a view. There's so many people trying to get a good shot of this small opening in the arch. Also, the Upheaval Dome, super short walk up to the Upheaval Dome rim, and you see some incredible rock formations and just different colors that you don't really get to see in Utah.
The real reason we have Canyonlands as high as number 3 is the Needles portion of Canyonlands. There's nobody out there. It's super desolate. It's about an hour away from Island in the Sky. And let me tell you, this place is unreal. The rock formations are amazing. The trail system is probably the best you can get in Utah. The Joint, it's a slot canyon. Gives you some cool shadows with the light coming in for some cool pictures, and working around the slot canyons and exploring is really fun. Druid Arch is probably the coolest of the things there. I think the coolest arch in Utah. Not many people know about it. It's huge.
The last district is the Maze. We haven't been to this section mostly because it's generally reserved for like off-roading and backpackers. So it's not one that is very popular. In fact, I would go as far as to say it's actually less popular than the Needles, but there isn't a whole lot to do there unless you're into those activities.
Number 2, Grand Teton National Park in northwest Wyoming. My favorite national park based upon these rankings. The mountains are amazing. They're unlike anything that you'll see anywhere else. It's very lush. The wildlife is amazing. So many good trails, so many good lakes. I could go on and on. Some of the things we've done here, we've hiked up to the Middle Teton, which is a very, very strenuous hike. So be prepared if you're going to do that. Delta Lake, probably the coolest lake I've been to, right underneath the Grand Teton. Gives you a great view of it. Turquoise, crazy blue color. Highly recommend.
And at number 1, the crown jewel of the continent, we have Glacier National. I screwed up. Glacier. Wouldn't that be funny?
Glacier National Park.
At the top of our list of national parks that we've been to in the West, we have Glacier National Park, which some call the crown jewel of the continent. What can we say about this park? It's one of those places that kind of leaves you speechless. It's so beautiful up there. We take a really big liking to mountains, and that's, as we said this in our video, it's a whole nother level of mountains. Logan Pass is perhaps the coolest spot in the park. There's a lot of great spots, but Logan Pass has so much to do, so much offshoots. One of the best things that I think Glacier has to offer is the shuttle system. Getting to Glacier National Park is a challenge for a lot of people. It's up near Canada, and the roads are not super big, and includes going to the Sun Road, which is one of the coolest drives you can ever take. But be aware, if you're coming from the west side, as most people do, into West Glacier, you're gonna need to get a timed entry reservation to go on the drive with your vehicle. You can still get up into the Logan Pass area or over to the east side of Glacier via the shuttle systems, and they're very, very efficient, and they come right on time. On the eastern side of the park, we have St. Mary. Stop at the visitor center. That's the first stop, right? That's where all the shuttles come down, and it's a pretty impressive visitor center.
If you know me, you know I love my visitor centers, and I can say that the St. Mary Visitor Center is one of the best that you can get, except the propaganda. In conclusion, again, this is all just opinion based. Everyone has different experiences. All of these parks are amazing and have awesome things to do, amazing sights, and they're all well deserving of being national parks. Again, we haven't been to all of the national parks in the West. We plan to at some point. Places that we really want to go: Crater Lake, Rocky Mountain National Park, Great Sand Dunes National Park in the White Sands, and Carlsbad Caverns National Park in New Mexico. I'm sure that there's many other places. Feel free to let us know what places are you think the best that we should visit.
And definitely give us your ranking down below, or tell us what ones we missed. We'd love to hear your comments, because as we discovered in trying to rank these, we both have very different tastes, and I think that's with everybody. It's all based on your experience and what you like and dislike. And that's the beauty of the national parks, is that there's something for everybody, and you all need to just go out and see them. And if you're interested in seeing the detailed breakdown of these lists and our own personal lists, as well as maybe some extra details that we've left out, definitely look out for our first ever podcast episode. We're gonna put out, it should be available everywhere you get your podcasts, and it'll have more information than what we can fit into a YouTube video. Let's zoom, baby.
Let's zoom.